Hey, what's going on, guys? Today's video is gonna be I don't want to say different, but it's just been a while since I've done a video like this before. So in my previous YouTube channels that existed before in the past, I've kind of done like a series called do this exercise every day to kind of get better. And pretty much what those like series of videos kind of entailed were pretty much warm ups that I've kind of discovered and kind of like invented all my way that like whether you are a beginner artist or a more advanced artist, can benefit from. When it comes to starting those first couple of drawings of the day. So this is a video pretty much just talking about some warm-ups that you can implement and do as a warm-up before you get into more of, like, I guess you could say, more serious drawings, right? Drawings that you want to work on that you don't want to be rusty on, right? Whether it's shaky lines or whatnot. This kind of gets that muck out, right? That first hour of drawing out the way. So with that being said, as an example, these were actually my warm ups. So the warm ups I'm gonna be teaching about these, I've already done them. I'm just gonna redo it for you guys again. So, so one of the warm ups that you can also practice is kind of like oh, sorry. Let me see if I can change this real quick. Okay, sorry about that. I forgot I still had the video in black and white. I had to change that filter because there are some things in color I do want to show you. So, with that being said, So for starters, I think constructing a camera in perspective is also pretty much also a good warm up to, do. So we're gonna do that. So pretty much we're just stacking your basic primitives on top of each other to make a camera, essentially. So this is where perspective is gonna come into play. So let's do it. And notice with this box, we're going to fit another box, a smaller box within this box. Not inside, but like protruding out. So here, like this. You kind of want to find that midline, right, of the box, and then protrude a small box or rectangular prism, whatever, from it. And from this point on, this will act as essentially the lens from the camera. And in here we will fit our ellipse, right? It's where you go to practice your ellipses, where your ellipse practice comes into play. And then from here on, we're going to construct the cylinder. And then we're going to add kind of like this, almost like a golden brick type of shape on top of the body of this camera. To kind of give it that extra just flavor, right? A more primitive looking camera. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add like a plane almost to indicate the ground, a ground plane. And then here we're gonna add we're gonna give the camera like a tripod, or mount, right? And then since I have that plane, I know where to stop. It gives me a place of reference to ground the camera or the tripod, essentially. Alright, we're pretty much almost done here with our first camera. And then, from this lens part, right, the cylinder, pretty much what you can do, it's since it's like camera, like, let's add some, like, kind of like perspective, or like, glare lens, right? Or, saying that the camera is focusing on this perspective or recording this angle, right? coming out forward. I think that's kind of like a cool little effect to do. So let's go ahead and draw some more cameras here. So now that we've kind of drawn a couple of cameras, in various perspectives, various angles, the point of this exercise is to show you that it really is just your basic box and cylinder, right? And you're just slopping these shapes, and you're turning and shifting them in different perspectives, right? That's all it really is with what I'm doing here. Because the legs are cylinders, the body of the camera is just a square. It's a box. The lens is literally a cylinder. This is like a pushed, like bevel, kind of geometric shape. Everything here is just built on primitives, which is why it's so easy to shift it in perspective. And then you could just see this. This is like the bare bone, minimal detail of what could be essentially a camera, right? So another exercise that I can also show you is going back again to the box, but how to kind of change a box into like a basic crate, that we kind of see like in our video games and stuff like that, which is a good prop that could be used in storytelling, say like a comic, so that's what we're gonna do here. So we're gonna start off with our box. And after this point, once we have our box, and given its perspective, right, what we're going to do is kind of like what we've seen before, if you saw like a draw box exercise or like that, right? We kind of take like the 4 points, right? And then you just kind of like plot it, right? You're doing your ghost lining, right? And from that on, you fit like your ellipse or whatever like that, right? It's essentially what we're doing on these 3 planes to this box. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw this line to that corner, 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 and this is how you get a universal box. This line to that corner, and then from these points, so like this point to that point of that line, this point to that point of that line, this point to that point of that line, this point to that point of line, we are going to keep these lines symmetrical to each other. So we're gonna have like line come up right here, boom, line come up right here, boom, line come out right here, boom. And what you'll start to see is you're like, oh, it is starting to kind of look like a crate, something we'll see like in a video game, or anything, right? It's a crate, right? Boom. It's like, okay, I see what he's talking about. Boom, 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 right? Let's tighten up these lines a little bit, right? So we don't want to lose the illusion of perspective here. We don't want it to fall apart. So, and then from here you can add in like small props, that sort of thing, right? So let's say like we want to add like a little book right on top of here. Same thing, right? Going back to your primitives. It's just your cube, your box, and we're just transforming it into a book. Alright. If we want to, we can add like maybe like a little cup right to it, like a little mug, right? Boom, which is a cylinder. Give it a little handle right there. It's a bit hard to see. This pencil's actually pretty thick with the lead, so. it's kind of hard to get like more smaller details with like getting thicker, bolder lines. And then from here, we can kind of go on into shading, right? And then from here, right, we have initially, a very primitive box that we put some props on top of, right? And then from here, like, with this shift in perspective, it's like if we put it like in a little panel, right? Let me make a little panel real quick. And then from here, we have like some storytelling, right? So just to show you like this kind of approach can be used like in an environmental background, say like for a comic or something, right? We have right here, John left his book on the crate. And then here we have a shot of John's book on the crate. And then boom, right there we have some storytelling elements, right? If you wanted to go in here, could maybe add some, I don't know, grass or whatever like that, leaves, that sort of thing, right? And right there, that would, and then obviously it goes off into the vanishing point with the perspectives and stuff like that, Another exercise, this will also help with the kind of like atmospheric, perspective, kind of like your basic. So if we come back up here, and then if we just draw a sphere, right? And then and we call this a sense of like overlapping. It's another term, but it's still within the realms of perspective. So like overlapping, in art is just like so like if I took this hand, right, and I put this hand over this hand, right, which one looks like it's closer to you or closer to the camera, right? It would be the hand with the ring, right? This one's closer, right? You're more focused, and this one's more drawn back out into the distance, right? That's essentially what we're gonna do here with these spheres, right? So we're gonna do this overlapping. We're gonna do like, let's do like four spheres, right, for this example, right? And notice as I'm darkening the lines to the first one around, and just by me doing that, which we call line weight, this sphere looks like it's coming closer to us, right? It's because our eyes are focusing more on the darker values of that line weight. And right here we can add some like shadow casting or whatever like that. Shadow. Let's do that for all of them. Alright. Let's add some value. If I get the core right there. Do that for all of them. This is also an exercise like this is also good overlapping, right? Boom, right? And you're already getting that sense of depth, right? That sense of just like, whoa, we're going back to the line, like he's up next, right? These all they're still waiting. But also, what you can notice is with this, we're getting a sense of 1 point perspective. And so if we draw a line connecting these edge to edge, right, from the top of the sphere to the bottom, and we draw lines, we're gonna notice a convergence. We get a vanishing point, and then from that vanishing point, boom, we just dictated a horizon line. Boom, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations, you just created a 1 point perspective. And then from this point dictates the rest of the perspective. These are things to be aware of in everyday life and artwork, right? Where are these vanishing points going? Right? These objects we see, where do they end? Where are the endpoints? Where are the lines of convergence? And then from this point on, you could put in other shapes in it, like Uh, I don't know. Let me try to fit like a table or something. But there you go. But just know when you're doing overlapping exercises like this with the spheres that's going into the distance, you are doing a 1 point perspective. And this is me literally breaking down the perspective from that, right? This one sphere dictated the rest of the perspective. And then everything else just falls in line, like this table and this small cylinder on that table. You know, it dictates the rest. Um, Another exercise that I can show you, um, it's kind of the play with firearms, right? So if we take, I know firearms can be very difficult, right? So, but if we take our basic primitives, like something like this, right? It always comes back to the box, guys. Just know when artists talk about boxes, 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 they say it because it's true. It's universal. Everyone's gonna come back and refer to the box, you know. But even just to show you something as like advanced or complicated as firearms, they're all boxes and cylinders. And then boom, I'm gonna draw another box here. It's going to help to create my cylinder. So just to show you an example, just using your primitives, also apply to drawing firearms. Say like a revolver, you know. Um, and rotating, objects like this, whether it be a camera, a table, a crate, a book. Yeah, let me show you an example of also just drawing a book, right? So, yeah, so there you go. I could show just like I could show also just like another example, right? Let's do like rotating something like a table, right? Very basic. It's over here. Take something like a table, right? So very basic shape. And as I'm drawing this in my head, I'm taking consideration the perspective and the vanishing points this is going. And boom, based off of this leg dictates the rest of the perspective. So my brain, the way I'm seeing is like, okay, this is going towards like this vanishing point. This is going towards like that vanishing point. In a sense, it's a 2 point perspective. Um, so boom. So the reason why I'm drawing these guides is because I know where to stop these table legs, right? I know where to stop. So I know on this corner, this table leg is gonna come down, and it's not gonna go past this no further. Because if I go any further, I'll lose the sense of depth and perspective, and I'll lose the illusion of the 2 point perspective. There you go. And then from then on, you can, like I said, add props, whatever like that. Like, but do keep in mind the perspective. So it's going down like that, right? We're seeing this constantly. Like always in your brain, always be aware of just the perspectives of lines that are symmetrical. So boom, I know I'm gonna work with lines like that, right? So boom, like I said, with the lines going like that, we're gonna come down here, and then boom, that dictates the rest of the perspective. All right, so come over here, draw a box. And from this, I don't know, you could draw a cylinder. We're gonna put it like that way. And then from here, we're going to do like a cone. I don't know. I didn't know what to put on the table. I was thinking about like books and cups and stuff like that, but I'm just like, nah. And notice here overlap, right? So boom, I'm overlapping this cube on top of this cylinder because I want the viewer to know that the cube or box is in front of the cylinder. So boom, I went in and just added some more, make it look nice, a little bit more detailed. Um, but something as simple as this, right? It's like very basic. Like I said, it's a 2 point perspective, primitives. But when you're working in these perspectives, you do want to be aware of just the perspective vanishings that point they're going to. These are obviously going off the page. Because it's a pretty wide 2 point, right? I drew a pretty large table here, but boom, you can see as it's converging, going to the 2 point perspectives, vanishing point going up here, down here, right? And in your brain, you just want to be aware of this stuff. So that's pretty much it. So you can, for an exercise, you can do the camera method, right? You taking a box and just shifting the cameras, right? It's always cool to play with cameras, especially when you're, it would be a good prop to use a camera, maybe an example of perspective in a lecture, whatever like that. You can take a box and turn it into a crate. I'm not gonna lie, this crate's kind of botched. I was losing the sense of the perspective here, but this one looks a lot better. You see, it reads stronger, but guns, right? Boom. Oh, just to show you another example. So let me go grab it because I'm gonna show you guys where I learned to actually do this to where I'm constructing the guns in various perspective angles. And I'm gonna show you the book because it might surprise you. So hold on. So I just wanted to show this real quick. And people might know how to draw the comics way or the Marvel way. But I just want to show an example of just something just like everything I was showing here, teaching here, right? In terms of exercise and perspective, I mean, it's literally taught in a book like this. I could be wrong. I think you can pick up how to draw the Marvel way like on Amazon for like $10 or $15. But specifically, drawing the firearms, like for an example, like the revolver, whatever like that. If I can find the page, like boom, right here. See. And I think I'm just here just in case people aren't aware of this, and I'm showing this, right? This book, some people might look at it and they might just think like, that looks childlike, this looks dated, this isn't going to show me how to draw any of the cool, like, Kim Jung-gi perspective stuff, like this is a kid's book, it's one of like those cheap knockoff anime step 1, step 2 books. It's just like, no, I mean, that couldn't be the case, because this book is quite literally what they're showing. What's his name? Stan Lee and John Buscema. I'm pretty sure I butchered that, but what they're showing here is like literally the foundations of drawing everything. I mean, look at this. This book was, if anything, this book was ahead of its time, and it's still to this day, it still holds up because what's shown in here is really universal. Like, look at that cylinder. That cylinder's rendered nice. Look at these spheres. Look at these boxes and stuff like that, rotated in various perspectives. Pretty much what I was showing in the video. This is universal. This stuff never gets thrown out. And they're showing here, and you got Iron Man, teaching you how to do it. It doesn't get better than that. Here's another example, right? Because someone, and here I have it right here, right? Someone might be like, oh, how to draw how to draw the Marvel way, that's, give me a Scott Robertson book, how to draw, because this looks technical, this looks nerdy, like, oh, this has all the answers, and it's just like, this is the same thing. It's the same thing. What they're showing here is the same shit. Let me see. I need a bookmark. Hold on, because I don't want to lose these pages. I'm just gonna put this here. Look at that. This is literally in Scott Robertson's How to Draw, right? The so-called, you know, God tier perspective book, right? Planes, finding the center middle of the plane and drawing the ellipses and going over, right, the axes or whatever like that. You know, what he's showing you here, right? Look at that. Look at that. Sphere, ellipses, spheres, right? Look at that. It's literally the same thing. And it's literally the same thing in How to Draw. Teaching the plan. I would only say that the only thing that the How to Draw has over the Marvel is maybe more drawing examples, right? But the theory is still universal. You know, look at the planes. Look at that, grounding the planes, going to the perspectives. You know, yeah, this is coming from a so-called kids book. Hold on, like. Like, look at that. Perspective environments. You know, 1 point, right? Pretty much what I was talking about. 1 point, right? And then we get a 2 point, right? Teaching you, look, 2 point perspective, 1 point perspective, 3 point perspective. You got Spider-Man telling you, look at that. You got Thor, you know. But anyways, this video isn't a review on the How to Draw the Marvel Way, but I thought I should really show that because you know that's you don't necessarily need like these expensive books. Like I said, the fundamentals of art is universal. When you got one book that does it does it all, you know. But yeah, that was pretty much it, guys. Yeah, I just wanted to. It's been a minute. I do like making these, like, what's it called? The whole draw these every day to get better videos, you know, because doing these exercises, these practices will unlock the 3D in your head to shift and draw these prompts in all these various perspectives. Like, this stuff is the secret sauce, you know. This is doing the gi. This is doing the Kim Jong-gi, you know. So, with that being said, thank y'all so much for watching. Hit the like if you guys learned something new. Maybe this is one of these things you can integrate into your process, you know, as a warm-up, you know. And if I've shown you something new, you know, check out some of my other stuff. Give me a like. This is my 3rd time trying to run up a YouTube. So with that being said, take care, stay safe, and most importantly, never stop drawing. Bye-bye.